And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another frustrating episode of the Assembly Call. Today, your Indiana Hoosiers lose 60-58 in what was the Big Ten's newly minted tackle basketball game. The Hoosiers' record now sits at 19-12 on the season, 9-11 in Big Ten play. It was really a game that was started with our seniors scoring, looked good. We got out to a lead, getting our team to a lead that we kind of kept throughout the first half, despite Wisconsin hitting some threes. Defense tightened up to finish the first half. The lead would carry us over. We held that lead for over 29 minutes, but a horrible drought at the end of the game from Indiana on, I believe, 12-1 run by Wisconsin, put them up, and IU just could not answer at the end there when the game was still slightly in reach. Wisconsin, I believe, had a lot of the momentum, and we just couldn't answer back in that. I'm your host for tonight, Chad Schwarzkopf, filling in for Jerod.
You're aware of your own name, right?
Well, yeah, I am. Well, he puts the chat mob in front of it all the time. I'm trying to drop that chat mob. Come on now. But here with Ryan Phillips, as you can hear and see. Ryan and I will break down all for you in this edition of the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. And let's start the show the way we start every show, and that is with our Hoosier Proud banner moment. Today's banner moment, I'm going to get away from the game and just give it to the seniors. Not often do you have a class that goes through these like these two players have had to deal with. They are the last players that Tom Crean coached. After the coaching change, they chose to stick it out and stay with the program, which is pretty telling of their fight and commitment to the program. In a current basketball landscape, that kind of thing usually gets littered with transfers, usually for lesser than coaches change, but the guys stuck with the program. Devontae, while often criticized for his inconsistency, has been an electrifying component to this team on many occasions throughout the years. This year alone, IU would have two of their bigger wins against Florida State and Iowa had it not been for the electrifying performances that he is able to produce. And kind of not since Troy Williams have the Hoosiers had a player that delivers such ups and downs with each play within a game, causing us often to react when he gets the ball to, here we go, yeah, okay, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But he's also been the brunt of a lot of criticism from a vocal minority on social media and even a few reporters that have gotten to him. I kind of shudder to think how I would have handled what he has had to handle when I was 17 to 22 years old. In last night's press conference, he responded perfectly to this by saying, "I probably shouldn't say what I really want to say, but thank you to the good fans for sticking with us for the positivity over the years. Even with the negativity, it's only been fuel for the fire, so I thank them too. They helped me learn how to battle adversity." Devontae said all this while his classmate sat next to him laughing. I'm sure Duran wouldn't have pulled his punches like Devontae has. But Duran, on the other hand, has not had an issue with his popularity in the fan base. Loved for his honesty, charisma, and tough play under the basket, freshman year brought us a player that had raw talent and got us really excited for the future. He just needed to get a little bit better shape for college basketball. Duran showed that dedication in the offseason, and after working hard in the summer, he came back faster and leaner and getting fans excited. He was starting games and shooting an impressive 61% from the floor while showing some impressive vision and passing ability on the block. Then he got one of the toughest injuries, Ryan will tell you, a player could get, finishing his season and putting him into a fight to get back on his feet during another tough offseason. Duran fought back, but sadly hasn't been the same since. We've seen little inklings of it, but through it all, he has kept up a good head on his shoulders, never once complaining, even when his minutes and production was dwindling. Hoosier Hysterics call him the grown man, and in a young team that we have, his mentality and big brother attributes have been an asset for this team. I could go on and on about these two, from Devontae's crazy long threes that have blown the roof off Assembly Hall to Duran standing up for Rob and getting in the face of an opposing player after a hard foul, telling him he will have a problem if he does it again. but I'll keep it short from here. Devontae and Duran, thank you for your effort. Thank you for sticking with the program. Thank you for your highs and your lows, and just thank you for being Hoosiers. Our banner moment today, as always, is brought to you by our friends at Home Field Apparel, which was founded by an IU grad and remains based in Indianapolis. If you haven't been paying attention to what's been going on over at Home Field Apparel, you really need to go to their website, homefieldapparel.com, as soon as you can to check it out. Home Field still has the incredibly soft Bison hoodie logo shirt made with the soft dry blend material. And in addition to the Bison hoodie, they have the classic IU basketball champions t-shirt, the Script Indiana, and the brand new Script Hoosier shirt. If you haven't seen that one, check that one out. I'm gonna have to get that one. You will also find a handful of football-inspired designs and even our assembly call logo t-shirts and hoodie. All of their designs are unique, featuring logos that date back to the days of Branch McCracken, and every item they sell is incredibly comfortable and maintains its comfort even after you've washed it. This is why we love Home Field Apparel, and we know you will too. And because you're a member of the Assembly Call audience, you get a massive discount when you order at homefieldapparel.com. Use the promo code Assembly20 at checkout, and you will get 20% off your entire order. That's everything in your shopping cart for 20% off using the promo code ASSEMBLY20. So go to homefieldapparel.com and use the promo code Assembly20 for 20% off your entire order today. All right, so now it's time to move the ball, find the open man, and get some opening thoughts from the rest of our team. Ryan, go ahead and go off. I know you've got plenty to say about this game.
Yeah, this might take a while. Look, Indiana at home in a game that would have locked up a Big Ten tournament bid, or NCAA tournament bid, had a 9-point lead with 10 minutes left. And then they wound up, Race Thompson made 2 free throws with 6:52 to go to put them up 7. And they had a 7-point lead at home with under 7 minutes. Over the next, let's see, like 5 minutes and change, they gave up a 12-0 run, where offensively, like defensively, some of the things that were happening, hey, if Nate Reavers gets in the lane and makes a hook shot over you when you are in good defensive position, tip your cap, that's a good shot. And Trace Jackson-Davis does that to people all the time. But it's your job then, if you can't stop something defensively, to go down and answer offensively and make a smart play. And there were plenty of opportunities for Indiana to throw the ball into the post. At that point, when Race Thompson made that free throw, Potter for Wisconsin had 4 fouls. Somebody else had 4 fouls, and Reavers had 3 fouls. None of them fouled the rest of the game. That's a problem, that you're not attacking those guys to get them in foul trouble. Indiana was in the bonus early and just stopped attacking and stopped going after it. And we're shooting, as that run builds and teams go on runs, when that run gets to 6 points or 7 points, frankly, I think Archie Miller should have called a timeout, because the game started to slip away. When Wisconsin tied it at 51 with 5:08 to go, Archie Miller should have called a timeout or should have implemented something that to get an easy basket. You always have a play in your back pocket that's, hey, let's run this, we'll get an easy basket. Didn't do it, and they couldn't execute it when they had the chances. They couldn't execute, couldn't chip away, couldn't couldn't wind up reversing the tide. Then they got down, it was 56-51 with 1:18 to go, and guys jog up the floor. At that point, you're down 2 possessions, probably 3 actually, because the way Indiana shoots threes, I mean, just if you're thinking about it, you got to run up the floor and get something quick. They ran a long possession, and Al Durham hits a 3-pointer. Okay, you got 3, so now you're only down 2. Then you wind up getting a good defensive stop and giving up an offensive rebound to Nate Reavers, who tips it in for another basket. I mean, Indiana just has to be more aware of the situation and what's going on. And when you start melting down like that and you give up a 12-0 run on your home floor late in a game that, it wasn't a must-win game, but it was, hey, you win this, you've punched your ticket. It doesn't matter what happens at the Big Ten tournament. You've punched your ticket. and they just wilted, and guys were shooting. I mean, we saw repeatedly on a couple of positions, guys shoot, running floaters in the lane. Like, that's not Indiana's offense, and that's never a good offense. Yeah, if you make one, okay, cool, you got away with one. It's not a, okay, cool, that's a good shot. I mean, Devontae and Justin Smith both took runners in the lane. At one point, Trace went up kind of soft over Reavers instead of, hey, bully that guy, make him foul you. He kind of went up soft and threw one up. Race Thompson, I think, kind of threw one up. I mean, it's knowing, it's being conscious of the time and the score and what is going on. And we've seen this from Indiana time and time again, to give up these big runs and not have somebody step up and answer and just be like, all right, no, we're not doing this anymore. Give me the ball in a place I can score and we can go do this, and I put that on the coaches as well for not doing something and not recognizing the urgency and stopping it before it got to a point where Wisconsin had a lead. And once Wisconsin got the lead, you felt like there was no way to stop them. It just didn't feel like Indiana was going to win the game. Once they tied it, actually, it just felt like there's no way Indiana's going to win this game because they are in such slow motion offensively. And Indiana, until Al Durham hit a 3-pointer with 55 seconds left, Indiana hadn't made a field goal since the 10-minute mark. And so that was 10 minutes without a field goal. They had 4 points or 5 points. Other than that, it was free throws. But when you get up by 7 points and you don't score for 6 minutes, any kind of scoring, free throws, whatever, you're in the bonus. You should be getting free throws no matter what you do. If you're aggressive on offense, if you cut hard, if you post up, if you get the ball in the lane, you're going to get fouled. And I realize Big Ten officials are awful, and they were truly horrific today. But it doesn't matter. You put them in the position where they have to make a call, and Indiana didn't do that. Indiana was soft, and that's why Indiana lost. It was a soft mentality, and they lost. And you can say Wisconsin's a good team. They took advantage. They've been on a roll, all of that stuff. I agree. If before the game you told me Wisconsin was going to win by 4, I'd be like, okay, that sounds reasonable. But if you get up by 9 or 7 with a few minutes left, you got to win that game at home. You just do. It's the exact same thing as when Indiana was up 6 at Maryland with 1:10 to go. You have to win that game. You lose that game, and guess what? These losses are the reason you missed the NCAA tournament. In the end, these losses are why you missed the NCAA tournament if you miss the tournament. And it's crap like that 12-0 run. It's crap like just turning the ball over and handing it to Maryland when you're playing them. That's why you missed the NCAA tournament. It's not a crazy loss in November that loses you. That happens. You can improve and get better from it. It's crap like this, losing on your home floor to a ranked team. I mean, think about it. Indiana had to watch Wisconsin celebrate a Big Ten title on its floor. Think about that. And you cannot let that happen. And that happened to Indiana a couple times this year. They allowed Purdue to beat them on their home floor too. But those 2 games specifically, Maryland and Wisconsin, if Indiana misses the tournament, those are the reasons right there. 2 games you had in your hand and you blew. You actively blew those games. And Indiana has nobody to blame but themselves for this.
Yeah, it's not completely over for the team. They still have chance. They still have a line for the tournament.
Look, I still think they're in the tournament. I'm just saying, if on Selection Sunday things go crazy and don't roll your way, you can be upset at the selection committee, or you can look at yourself and say, we had 2 games against ranked teams we could have won to just put us in the tournament and missed. And blew it. And these aren't, again, this isn't some team got hot and hit 10 threes in the second half. These are games that were blown, that you handed to the other team. And so that's on nobody but yourself. If a team walks into Assembly Hall and hits 20 threes, you're going to lose. Like, there's no, and you just tip your cap. This is not that. This is 2 games they had cinched up against really good teams at the top of the Big Ten and handed them away. And so that's the problem. And that is, again, when you look back on this season, I still think they're in the NCAA tournament. I think if they win a game in the Big Ten tournament, there's no way they can be kept out from my amateur bracketology perspective. But if on Selection Sunday, Indiana gets left out, Indiana has nobody to blame but itself, because they could have given the selection committee, no doubt, that they belong in that tournament. And they had 2 chances to do that on their home floor with a lead late and blew both of them. Again, you can't blame anybody but yourself.
Yeah. And I think you kind of nailed it on the head with how it's been with the fan base this year too, is that, like you said, you look at the score and you kind of go, oh, okay, that makes sense. And you don't feel as bad until you actually watch the game and see how it became that score.
Sure. You lose to Maryland
that
by that score. You lose to Wisconsin by that score without watching the game. You feel like, hey, those are good teams and they came in and they got them. But you watch the games. And these are missed opportunities. And you stack up enough missed opportunities in the season, and there were some on the road as well. You stack up these missed Arkansas at home, another huge missed opportunity. You stack up these missed opportunities, and you got nobody to blame but yourself. And again, good that they were in the game. They played very well to start the second half, got a lead, earned that lead, played very well. Their defense was so good, but you knew Wisconsin was going to make a run the way Wisconsin's been playing. Wisconsin's been a comeback team all year. You knew they were going to make a run, and you knew that no matter even good defense was going to get beaten. You got to keep scoring on offense, and to only finish, to have 51 points with 7 minutes to go and finish with 56 is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And Archie Miller will say that too. It's unacceptable. They did not execute on offense. And when you don't execute against a good team, you're going to lose. You can't skate by with a run like that. You can beat a team like Nebraska giving up a run like that. You cannot beat Wisconsin giving up a run like that.
Yeah. And I mean, we had a similar time at the beginning of this game, about at the 9-minute mark to 6-minute mark, between those media timeouts where both sides weren't scoring, but like you said, it was good defense at that point that was causing us to stay in that game and tied that. Because if you look, there's a big chunk in the plays during that time span in the game where neither team scored, and IU was at least able to get stops on defense, and that was not the case, sadly, with the little run at the second net. All right, coming up, we are going to continue to break down Indiana's loss over Wisconsin. I'm going to point out a few meaningful moments that you might have missed, and then we will go inside the numbers to highlight the most important statistical notes of the game. You're listening to the Assembly Call. Stick with us.
What's going on? It's Christian Wofford. What's the only thing better than an epic buzzer beater? Celebrating it with friends afterwards. Join my guys, Jerod, Andy, Ryan, and Coach on the Assembly Call after every IU game. Go Hoosiers.
You're listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. I'm Chad Schwartzkopf, filling in for Jerod Morris, and I'm here with Ryan Phillips breaking down Indiana's loss against Wisconsin today. It's time for meaningful moments that you might have missed. This meaningful moment I'm going to suggest, to me, kind of shows how the tone was kind of shifted and set in the first half. I'm going to go back to at least brighter times in this game. Really, Wisconsin was hitting some threes to start, and our defense wasn't doing the greatest stopping those. And then a switch was kind of flipped, and we got a few stops and everything. But this moment kind of happened at the 2-minute mark of the first half. It was 25-28. It had been that score for since about the 4-minute mark. Joey Brunk gets switched up onto Wisconsin's guard, who tried to drive, but Joey was amazingly able to keep his feet and movement, not fouling for well over 10 seconds or so, causing him to have to pass it out after he tried to drive on Brunk. Then they swing the ball around to the end line where Thompson comes over to help. Who Justin walled up his man against the line, and they get a good the steal from that. And then following up later on, Wisconsin's last possession in the first half, when the score was still that 25-28, Brunk was switched up on Trice this time, and he was able to keep him from driving, kept his feet, kept moving, kept his arms up, and he was forced to try to make a shot at the end there, causing a shot clock violation. So Joey's someone that we've kind of criticized before for his defensive movement and everything, has turned it on this past game. And this game, I felt like he had a pretty good game. And was something at least a good bright point to take out of that. Any moments you want to point out, Ryan?
Yeah, I think it was just. I mean, I'm more general with my moments, but it's every one of Race Thompson's rebounds. I just think that guy had a huge day on the glass, and Wisconsin got some offensive rebounds late against Indiana. But up until that point, I mean, Race Thompson was battling on the boards. He grabbed, let me see how many offensive rebounds. I don't have it in front of me. He had 4 offensive rebounds. Deron Davis had 3, and Trace Jackson Davis had 3. And it was the way they battled early to get those rebounds and keep possessions alive, especially in the second half at times. I just thought that Race was doing a great job on the boards. And then, he went to the line and made 5 of 6 free throws, which he struggled with a little bit in the last couple of weeks. I thought that I've mentioned it already, but those 2 free throws he hit with 6:52 to go to put Indiana up 7, I thought were huge because he got a foul on Potter to give him his 4th, and then I think Jackson Davis had gotten Potter's 4th, but he had gotten another foul on one of the guys who was in foul trouble and went to the line and made both the free throws and put Indiana up 7. You're feeling pretty good about the game there. I mean, obviously you got your reservations with this team because you know that they can give up runs, but you're feeling pretty good making those free throws and sitting there up about 7. And then, at the time I remember thinking, that's huge to make both of those, extend it from 5 to 7. Now it feels like you got a lead, whereas 5 points is 2 possessions. It's quick. You feel like you're a little comfortable with the lead. And looking back on what happened, that turned out to be the turning point of the game for Wisconsin. They got a jumper in the paint, and then they just started rolling.
Yeah, it was that kind of chunk in the second half. I agree with you where Thompson did have that good. He had a good defensive post up against him too.
He played very well defensively.
Really banged on the offensive end on one side when he had a post up. And I thought Wisconsin would do their normal flop and try to gain the charge. But honestly, I was amazed that Rivers or Ford, I forgot who was on him at that point, but took that kind of drive or elbow that he gave to him because that's what the refs were allowing at that point underneath. And he was able to score a really good basket. And then, like you said, there was an offensive end where he got 2 offensive rebounds in one play. So, he was very big in that stretch to really kind of keep Indiana.
That foul, by the way, that foul was on Ford. I said Potter. I meant Ford. That gave Ford 4, and then Potter had 4 earlier when he fouled Trace Jackson Davis. So you had 2 guys with 4 fouls. You felt 2 key guys who had played well with 4 fouls. I mean, you felt like you were getting them in the right spots, and then Indiana just failed to take advantage of it down the stretch.
Yeah, and another moment that I guess go early on in the game, Devontae obviously was the hot hand at the beginning of the game and kind of really got this team started from the beginning. And I got nervous at first when he was taken out at the first timeout period. But Al kind of took over when he came off and probed the defense and the offensive side and found an open Jerome Hunter, who was able to knock down that first 3 that he knocked. And Jerome looked pretty good in this game, found his rhythm. Guys were finding him, and he was going quick up with his shot, which was good to see. There was one time where I know that the fans and all of us were yelling for him to shoot in the second half. He was
off balance.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's why it was. He received the ball up high and just didn't have time to bring it down and shoot. And like you've pointed out in post games before, he really needs to get it at his numbers and be able to go up right away because he thinks about it and he just can't make those.
Yeah. He's not at that point yet.
No.
And I thought what was really meaningful off the jump was the seniors scoring all the points in the first in that first session. And Devontae had 16 in the first half. Deron Davis had 4. I think Deron had the first 4 of the game, if I'm not mistaken. Might have had 4 of the first 6. I don't know. He scored 2 buckets real quick. And Devontae had 16, and Devontae didn't score in the second half. And there were, I mean, some of the observers at courtside were saying that he looked a little hobbled coming off at halftime. So, and then was kind of limping around in the second half. So, wonder if something happened there. But he did shoot it 7 times in the second half. He just didn't make any shots.
Yeah, and I guess that can transition us into talk about a few of the numbers from this game. Numbers.
They're not fun. I've got one. Indiana in the second half shot 31% from the field. That's not good enough. Like, you're not taking good shots when you're only shooting 31%. 1 of 6 from 3, which that 3 was the late Al Durham 3. But they actually defended pretty well. Wisconsin was 3 of 9 from 3 in the second half. Of course, they hit some big ones, but for the most part, they, kept them in check. But the shooting 31% from the field and only scoring 28 points in the second half will hurt you every time when you're at home. You got to close strong at home, and they didn't. Points in the paint, Indiana had a significant lead early, and it wound up being a 2-point lead. They went 22-20. Wisconsin's a team that scores a lot of their points from beyond the arc and not in the paint, and the fact that they were able to battle with them was not great. Indiana also, I believe at one point I saw the stat, they led 33-22 on rebounds, and it finished 38-34. So Wisconsin got a lot of rebounds late, got a lot of second chance opportunities. And then I think the other thing that's key is Ford, Potter, and Reavers all finished with 4 fouls. Indiana didn't attack and foul any of those guys out. Potter had 4 fouls with like 10 minutes left. It did not foul out. Ford had 4 with 7 minutes left, did not foul out. And then Reavers had 3 with about 10 minutes left, and he did not foul out either. And that's on Indiana for not recognizing those matchups and going at them, or at least putting them in a position where they have to back off because they don't want to foul out. It makes the, Trace getting the ball up against, let's say, Potter, makes it easier because he's not going to foul you. So it's an easier shot to go up into. So the fact that Indiana didn't just hammer those positions, and I blame, the guard play for a lot of it. They have to organize things and get things going and find guys in the right position, and they didn't do that. So Rob Finney had 7 assists today, which I thought he actually played well. I thought he took some shots on the inside that weren't necessarily great shots, but I'd rather have him attacking and taking those shots than just weaving around the perimeter. But when Rob Finney has 7 assists and knows what he's doing well and knows how he's running things and all that stuff, late in the game, you got to make those work for you, and you got to find the right guys at the right times. And I don't think that the guards did that.
Well, and I think the glaring thing that you'll just look at and see is, as well as Devontae, our scoring leader, with 16, all of which were in the first half. So, I mean, right there, it kind of shows you the tale of the offensive halves for IU. And like you said, I mean, our 3-point shooting, 1 for 6, horrible in the second half, but we were 5 for 9 in the first half. And again, that was all mostly Devontae, 55.
They shot 40% for the game. You'll take that as an IU fan.
Yeah. You just don't want to
point shooting. Yeah.
You just don't want to see that second half number.
Sure.
Overall, free throws, not bad. 10 for 15, 66%. Could be a little bit better, but
7 of 11 in the second half. They missed some opportunities there.
Yeah, on the front end, no front end misses like we tend to have, though. At least we didn't really get fouled.
Joey Bronk has to rework his free throw motion in the offseason.
That hitch is weird.
He's really struggled lately.
I'm amazed we haven't drawn more lane violations from that. Like I would step in on that weird hitch up that he got.
Speaking of lane violations, that was a key play. Was I forget who was shooting the free throws.
It was Rivers, I believe.
No, it was Potter. It was Potter.
He
made the first. Now on the second one, he missed it, but Justin stepped in the lane. At that point, Indiana was up 51-50, and Justin stepped in the lane. They let him retake it. Potter's free throw goes in, ties it at 51. So we gave him an extra point, to tie the game when we didn't need to, just by a mental error. And it's like, juniors and seniors should not be making those mental. I realize a lane violation happens. It's instinct, whatever, but it's, if this were a one-off thing with a mental mistake from an upperclassman, you're like, all right, it happens. We'll take it. But when these mental mistakes continue to happen to the older guys, it's not a good feeling when that happens. So
and focusing in a little bit more on Justin as well. I think he kind of had an on and off game. There were a lot of times
parts he played really well defensively.
Yes, and other times where he just was not trailing his guy, was not coming in hard, hands up, and allowed his Woods to get hot and be very good from three. Ford be very good from three for us and really hurt us at some poignant times in this game. Another kind of thing to look at is, I guess the refs are watching old films and realizing that a lot of those fouls that we get called from Al Durham slipping and sliding, they've realized to swallow their whistle and think that he's still slipping and sliding when he's getting tackled again. And
I did like to see that 2 times Brad Davidson tried to flop to take a charge, and he was like Mr. Charge when they were all just flops. And 2 times Brad Davidson, who was my least favorite player in college basketball, tried to take a charge. They called both blocking fouls because he is just a floppy little punk. And Reavers took a charge early in the game on Trace Jackson Davis that was the most blatant flop I've seen all year, and they called it as a charge. And I was just like, come on, guys, like, don't fall for that crap. He's got to be like 260 pounds, and he felt like he was a feather. Like, come on. He felt like he was a feather who'd been hit by a train. Like
it's definitely a Wisconsin calling card, and it does get aggravating, that type of thing. And then also the talk after. They act like they're the innocent kittens, and they're not fouling these guys or having these issues. Any other numbers not to look at? I mean, turnovers at least were decent. We won that one 7-10 for Wisconsin. We scored 10 points off those 10 off their turnovers. They only got 8.
Yeah, I'll say 9 assists. I mean, Indiana's got to move the ball better than that, and find open guys better. And Rob had 7 of those. So that tells you the other guards, when they were in there, when he was on the bench, were not feeding the guys they need to feed. I think that if you had gone into this game and said you're going to get 16, 9, and 4 from your primary guards, so that's 29 points, you feel pretty good about it. But you only got 6 from Trace Jackson Davis. You got none from Joey Brunk. You only got 4 from Deron Davis. You got 7 from Race Thompson. So this was a guard-heavy game for Indiana when, look, I mean, nobody on their team can guard Trace Jackson Davis. I know he's a little hobbled right now, but if you just feed Trace Jackson Davis the ball, he's at least going to get to the free throw line. And I felt like Indiana didn't do it enough. I felt like they, kind of wilted in the face of that. And Wisconsin wasn't really running doubles at the post. They tried a couple times, but they backed off quickly. I just think there was opportunity there. And I think that should have been the whole game plan in the second half. And they started off trying to do it and just did not repeatedly go there. I realized Jackson was 2 of 8. I'm fine with him taking 14 shots in this game. I even if he makes 5,
especially in the end when their bigs are in foul trouble.
Yeah, you go right at him. Trace has gotten a reputation as a guy who can do some things in this league, and the referees are going to reward him eventually for that work. And I just felt like Indiana didn't try and exploit that today. And I think that's a big part of why they lost. They weren't true to who they were, which is pound the paint against a team that has 2 big guys that are susceptible to foul trouble, and we're in foul trouble. I just think it's pound the paint, let the crowd get into it, and force the officials to make a call. We need to be able to do that at home. And I felt like they missed a huge opportunity to do it.
Yeah, along with those assists as well, and I think that also goes along with the pound the paint, is that not a single one of our big guys had an assist in this game. And that's something you want to see a little bit more. I want to see, at least moving forward, a lot more, is getting it into them, and then guys cutting and getting the ball, or those dishes out and shots that should be there for this team because our bigs are so good, was just not there during this game. So, yeah. And again, the obviously biggest blatant number you can look at is the time with lead. Wisconsin only had the lead for 7 minutes, and IU had it for nearly 30. So frustrating.
You got to win that game. I'm sorry. I that's what I keep coming back to when I'm thinking about this game is you're in that position up 7 at home, with 7 minutes left. That's a gift. That is a gift someone has given you. and you turned around and you rewrapped the package and handed it back to Wisconsin. Like, that is exactly what happened. And the situation they were in, 900 times out of 1,000, you have to win that game. And they just, they gave it away. And I keep going back to this, and I know I'm repeating myself, but I keep going back to this. It's, you had this game, you had the Maryland game, you had the Arkansas game, and you handed each one of them to your opponent on your home floor. That cannot happen if you want to be taken seriously as a program. The Assembly Hall, there's a mystique about it. There's this energy. There's all this stuff. Well, that only works if you take advantage of it. And Indiana repeatedly did not take advantage of their inherent home court advantage this season. There are people who say that's the best home court advantage in college basketball. It's certainly up there. There's no arguing that. It's right there, by the way. But you have to actually take advantage of it and punish teams when they come in. If you are repeatedly just giving up leads and giving games away, then it no longer becomes a place people are afraid to go play in, because regardless of the crowd, regardless of the energy, regardless of how big it is, it doesn't matter if the team on the floor is going to hand the game to the opponent. It just doesn't matter. It becomes a fun trip to the other team as opposed to something they're intimidated at. And they go, God, we got to go play Assembly. Like we feel about going to play at the Barn because it's such a trash arena. You know, they start feeling like, oh yeah, Assembly Hall, that'll be fun. You know, it's just, you need to take advantage of your opportunities. You only get half your conference games at home. You got to win them. You know, you got to win them. It's tough to win on the road. You win the home games and you're in a great place. Indiana gave away 3 Big Ten road games this year. The Purdue game, they just didn't show up to. And then you've got Maryland, where they led late, played well for 19 minutes in that second half, and then handed the game away. And then Wisconsin had the game in hand and handed it away. You cannot do that and be expected to be taken seriously as a big time program. And that's on I mean, I'm not blaming the players. It's on the players. It's on the coaches. It's on everybody involved with the program. You cannot do that if you want to be taken seriously. And Indiana talks all the time about being a premier destination of college basketball and all of that stuff. You can't lose games at home that are winnable. You just cannot give away games. 4 home games lost this year. 4. You cannot do that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of lack of that, and in the 130-minute mark after that timeout, Wisconsin had all the momentum at that point. And I watched our guys' body language coming out of that timeout, and we already looked defeated. I didn't see one player, and a lack that I've seen in this team is during those moments, that bulldog player, that emotional player that's there screaming at the other players, getting them up, getting them going, getting them ready. Let's get back in this, guys. We have this one. Let's go. And everyone's just looking like they're walking back to their desk from the water cooler. Yeah. And it's frustrating to see that and continually see that. And hopefully that gets solved with some guys that we know that are coming in soon, and other guys can step up. I know Al's got that mentality brewing down below. I don't know why he doesn't out in those moments, which I guess we kind of did see. He nailed that 3 and was the most aggressive at the end there, but he needs to make it contagious with the other guys.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Al making that 3, we needed that 3 minutes earlier, you know, like we in the middle of the run. So that, and we talked about this all year on the post-game show and on our radio show, is that the difference between winning and losing is the difference between, instead of having a 12-0 run, ending it at a 6-0 run. You know, that's the difference between winning and losing, is stopping those runs in their infancy, knowing when it's a 6-0 run and you're starting to lose momentum. Okay, throw it down to Trace Jackson-Davis for an ISO in the post, and let's just end this here. They can score another couple points after that. I don't care, but like, we need to answer at some point, because even if it's 2 6-0 runs sandwiched around a 2, it feels very different than a 12-0 run where you can't get anything done. Like there's a different feel to it, and there's a different momentum to everything. And if you let them just chip away and build that momentum and stack bricks and stack bricks and stack bricks and build a wall, they're going to win the game. And again, we needed somebody to step up in the middle of that and say, no, we're ending this now. And nobody did. I mean, they didn't take solid shots. They were wilting from the pressure. Nobody just, they were again shooting floaters and things like that. No, you drive in and you stick the ball off the glass if you really want to score this, or you drive right into somebody's chest and make them foul you. Or you catch and step into a three. Like there's instead of dribbling around and maybe firing one. I mean, it's a subtle difference, but it's a difference between winning and losing is stopping those runs, at 4, at 6, before they get to 12, 15, 20.
Yep. Punching back before too many punches hit you.
Exactly.
All right. So coming up on the assembly call, we will hand out our game balls and hit any other lingering storylines. We also look ahead to what's up next for Indiana. Then it will be time for last call. That's all next here on the assembly call. Stick with us.
This is Jordan Halls, and I never miss a shot or an episode of the Assembly Call.
And it stings more and more when you hear those guys that are clutch call us back into a program after a loss like this. You're listening to the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. Catch us live immediately following every IU basketball game, plus every Thursday night at our website, assemblycall.com. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for our free IU Hoops email newsletter. Over 7,000 of your fellow IU fans have subscribed. You can also text IU to 66866 to subscribe to the newsletter. That's IU to 66866. I'm Chad Schwartzkopf, filling in for Jerod Morris as host today, and I'm here with Ryan Phillips, and we are breaking down Indiana's loss against Wisconsin. It's time now for our game balls. Game balls are hard to figure out in games like this. I've got a few different ones that I'm marinating in my head. Ryan, I want you to take a punch at it first.
Oh, I get to go first. I think there's 3 guys you could potentially give it to. I think Al Durham, Devontae Green, and Race Thompson. I thought Race Thompson was the best player on the floor on both ends for Indiana. That's not just the Race Thompson fan club in me. I really think he was.
But he didn't take his 3-shot. He didn't take his 1-3 shot that you wanted to.
I know, and that's kind of bothering me, Race. Like, come on, buddy. We're right here. You got to do it. He was 1 of 5 from the floor. I'm going to grade this on a curve. I'm going to give it to the senior, Devontae Green, for a 16-point first half. If he truly was injured in the second half, that makes sense because he cooled off quick and he wasn't getting as much lift on his jumper. He shot a couple in a row that were really short, and people courtside were saying he was limping. So I'm going to kind of grade this on a curve and give it to him for the first half when, quite frankly, nobody else on Indiana was really doing a whole lot other than Deron Davis in that first stretch. So he had 16 of Indiana's 28 in the first half. So he really kept Indiana in the game, had them with a lead early. They started to, they played well without him in the second half, without him logging a ton of minutes. But I thought that he was his start to the game really put Indiana in a great place. And quite frankly, I think that had he been healthy in the second half, I think he would have played better. Though I will say this, on the plus minus scale, Devontae was a -10. But I think the first half was good enough that I'm going to give it to him. He was also on the floor for a lot of that run in the second half, so that's what did it. But on the plus minus, Jerome Hunter +2 in 13 minutes, Joey Brunk +4 in 11. Race Thompson was at -1. So he might be the better pick, Chad. I'm teeing it up for you, buddy. Al Durham was also a 0. He was an even for the day.
I don't know. I mean, you hit on the players, obviously, that I was marinating between two. I could also honestly, maybe had he done more in the second half or more throughout the game, maybe consider Deron as well, because he was kind of crucial in getting us started at the beginning of the game. But you swayed me. You convinced me to go with Devontae as well, especially if these reports coming in that you've said are true about the second half. If he's hobbling, he still went in there and had some decent defense.
It was senior day too. That's why I'm giving it to a senior.
You get a little extra gift for that, but that brings his total to 4 for the year. Trey's still leading with 11, Joey with 4, Al with 3, Rob 2, Jerome 2, Race 2, Armand 1, and Deron Davis 1, and still nobody sitting there with 1 as well. One time that did not give a away. Something that's interesting too is that we didn't really see Armand Franklin in there. In the minute sheet, I'm showed that he played for 5 seconds.
Yeah,
so
he came into foul late. Yeah.
Okay, that's what that was.
Yeah, they ran him onto the floor. They didn't show it. They ran him onto the floor real quick.
Okay,
to help foul at the end.
Now, I guess I would lean that towards the fact that I guess the other guys were doing pretty well, but had we not had that scoring drought from Devontae in the second half, I would understand that more, but I maybe would have wanted to see a few more minutes out of him to at least test the waters during that tough stretch to see what he could have done to get things going.
And Armand's been a little more aggressive driving recently, and I think that's good for him because I think the standing on the perimeter shooting threes game is not his game right now. I think it could be. I think it will be. I think he's going to be a better 3-point shooter. Unless he's from the right wing, I have no confidence that he's making a 3-pointer. I know he had that game against Notre Dame where he hit a bunch, but that has not been consistently his MO. And so he's been driving more aggressively. One thing I like about Armand and he and Trace kind of have a bit of a relationship when they throw the ball to each other and he'll get it to Trace. If Trace isn't in a good spot, he'll throw it back, repost and get it back from Armand. And so I think that they've got a little bit of a chemistry going, which is going to be good for Indiana moving forward. But yeah, I understand later in the year, they're shortening the rotation and we've seen better games from Al Durham, Rob Finney, and even Devontae Green has been more consistent over the past couple of weeks. I mean, not where you want him to be, but he's been more consistent. And I think that's kind of aced Armand out of the guard rotation.
Well, and I guess in this game too, where he was so hot early, Devontae, you had to hope that he would get hot again and stay hot. So I get, you have to get those minutes to him and everything. You mentioned about the connection between him and throwing it down to Jackson Davis. And it's funny because I actually have that same thought with Devontae and Deron. You see Devontae a lot of times being the chief guy that really gets it down there for Deron when he's in the game for the most part. So any other lingering points you want to bring up about this game?
You cannot blow a game at home like this. I mean, you just can't. I know I keep going back to that, but that's what it is. That's the story of the game there is if this happens to you on the road, you feel like, God, we blew a game, but it was on the road. Like you can't let this happen at home. And Archie Miller, I know he knows that, but Archie Miller's got to stop this crap. Like this can't happen again and again and again. And to suffer 4 home losses this year, 1 against Arkansas that you led, that you should have won, 1 against Maryland that you led and you should have won, and 1 against Wisconsin that you led and should have won. That's an indictment. And the other one, it was Purdue where you didn't even show up. I almost forgive the not showing up in the middle of a tough season, like more than, and even though it's against Purdue, I mean, that's, I was at that game. Nobody was playing well, but the games that you lead late and give away are far more concerning than not showing up against Purdue. And they
hurt more as a fan
because you had it.
Yes.
It's there, and so that's the most frustrating part of this, man. And I will go back to that over and over, and I'll hammer that point and repeat it over and over. You cannot be a big time college basketball program if you do crap like you did today.
That's coming up. And coming up programming for Assembly Call, make sure you check out Banner Monday with Mike DeCourcy. He always does great programs, and this Monday one especially you'll want to check out because with brackets getting down to the nitty gritty and everything, don't believe the ESPN hype train with Joe Leonardo. I can't stand it. Oh, I can't stand it.
And by the way, Joe Lenardi is a bottom 25% bracketologist. Do not pay attention. He said the other day that, well, I don't think if you're under 500 in your conference, you should you should go. I think
ridiculous.
By the way, Joe, that's not a metric that anybody but you uses. You can say you don't like that, but the people on the selection committee do not use that as a metric. So your feeling on that doesn't really matter. Your job is to project what the bracket's going to be, not who you think should be in the bracket by your little, personal criteria. So pay attention to Andy Bottoms, pay attention to the Delphi bracketologists. Those people know what they're doing, and they've got Indiana in the field.
Yeah. And then also next up will be Wednesday's game. I don't think we have a start time for that yet. Almost perfectly set that'll be against Nebraska, a Nebraska team that I think there was just news that came out today that two of their players got suspended for something, got sent home early from a away game that was going on. Obviously not one that you want to take lightly again, a game that you want to see IU get to add to that resume, and then possibly steal the one following up from that. I don't know if that game is 100% set. I think that could be Purdue, or could be, I haven't looked to see there's too many more games to be played.
There's
obviously
too many to go. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't tell. There's a lot of movement that could still happen. But yeah, you are listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. Remember that because you are an Assembly Call listener, you get 20% off your entire order at homefieldapparel.com with the promo code assembly20. So if you want to get a great deal on the most comfortable and unique IU apparel that you'll find anywhere, go to homefieldapparel.com and use promo code assembly20 for 20% off your entire order. Okay, Ryan, it's time for last call. I know it's going to be, you feel like you're repeating yourself again, but let's give us one final rant to bury at home.
They had it. They had this game, and they had Wisconsin on the ropes. They had three key guys in foul trouble, with 7 minutes to go and up 7, and couldn't finish it. And at some point, someone's got to be a leader on this team and push them to do the right things. And whether that's coming from the bench or the floor or whatever, that needs to happen. And this team has not had it all year. This team has gone through lulls of terrible play before. And while I do think that the coaching staff has to do certain things and has to put them in the right position to win, I'll also say that I think that at some point you got to stop looking to the bench for your motivation to go win a game. You got to have that inside you. You have to want to go win a game, and you have to know what you have to do to win a game. And so that leadership we've talked about all year, that void of leadership and the lack of leadership and some, the lack of somebody who's an alpha dog to step up and be like, hey, this is on me, I'm going to do this. That comes back to bite you in games like this. And Indiana, again, I'll say it again, had plenty of opportunities to punch its ticket to the dance. And there have been 3 home losses where they probably could have clinched a spot. Instead, you're going into the first day of the Big Ten tournament. I don't know if you need a win, but a loss would be bad for their resume. And you don't want to end the season losing 2 games. You should win. And so I'll just say that Indiana was its own worst enemy this year when it came to these situations. It easily could have closed 3 home games out with wins and failed to do so. And it has nobody to blame but itself. And Wisconsin's a good team, and Wisconsin took advantage, just like Maryland's a good team, and Maryland took advantage. But those 2 games are the difference between, think about that. You win those 2 games. What are you, 11-9 in the Big Ten? In the upper half, you get a bye the first day of the Big Ten tournament. You're solidly in the NCAA tournament. Think about the difference there. What 6 minutes of playing time changed for this season? And think about when you have to be at your best as a player, and remember that Indiana failed to do so. So on Selection Sunday, again, if Indiana gets left out, you can point to those specific, that 6 minutes of basketball, 7 minutes, whatever it was of basketball in those 2 games that Indiana failed. And those are situations where you cannot fail as a home team in a major conference like that. So that's all I have to say about it. I think that, credit Wisconsin for closing it out and playing well, but Indiana did this to itself, and Wisconsin gladly accepted the gift that Indiana handed them, same as Maryland did earlier in the season. I feel the exact same way. Those 2 losses are a disaster for Indiana's season. Does it sink the ship? No, but those are disastrous results given the situation, the time and score, and all of that.
Yep. Look, it closes out the season, a season that was kind of around the record that we thought we would be at. But it kind of ends it with a little bit of frustration and kind of in the way as kind of to accumulate the whole regular season for this IU team, where we had a lot of good play. And then we just have some minor breakdowns that cause some problems and cause us aggravation as fans and have caused us to lose games. But it's at least a bright side. You can take away some positives from this game, some good efforts from a few players for the most part. Like I said, it's a good Wisconsin team that came in that was going to fight because they had a chance to have a Big Ten regular season title. And any team's going to go anywhere that they are when they have the chance to do that and fight and claw. And we also needed to fight and claw, though, because this was a chance to punch our ticket and go to the dance with the popular kid in school. We're still going to the dance, but that popular kid said no to our date request. So be there. Let's get up there to this Nebraska game. It's not too far from home. It's just up in Indianapolis. So IU fans, go to the game, cheer them on, keep fighting with them. We can only give them what we can, and that's with our energy and our cheering. So let's make sure that we're positive fans and we can keep that going with them to continue on. So yeah, that's, I think, all we can really say about this one for that. So that's going to do it for us on this edition of the Assembly Call IU post-game show. If you want to see us do the live show and be a part of the live chat, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/assemblycall.com. And don't forget to go to assemblycall.com or text IU to 66866 for our free email newsletter. Special thanks to Bob Thompson, who produced much of the music you hear on the show. And thank you for listening. We'll be back again for IU Hoops on Monday. Check out the Monday show and our usual Thursday night show. And until then,
take it from me, Jordan Halls. Keep your elbow in and your eyes on the rim. And go Hoosiers.
Thank everybody for coming out.
All right, I got to get out of here, folks. Thank you.
Here I come. This is Sony.
all right. Ugh.